Hi, I'm Kassy, and this is the Spark Konnect, a podcast about what brings us to life: connection, creativity, courage, and the moments that spark real change. I'll be your host, bringing my experience as a speaker, consultant, and lifelong believer in showing up as your full self. In this series, Arts and Facilitation, you'll hear from inspiring voices, facilitators, trainers, speakers, and everyday humans who are also artists, lighting up the world in their own unique, creative ways. This is your space to reflect, reset, and reignite, because the spark is already in you. Let's light it up. I have long looked up to Hilary Blair, and having her on this show was truly an honor. She's cool, brilliant, grounded, and one of the most transformative communication coaches I know. Hilary brings the power of theater into business, not the performance, but the presence. In our conversation, she talks about degunking people, helping them peel back the layers that block their authentic voice, and it is magic. We dig into the difference between friction and conflict, how friction can actually lead to creativity and innovation, and why setting boundaries creates safety instead of shutting people down. Hilary shows how theater techniques can make communication clearer, stronger, and more human. And as she says, walls down, boundaries up. And in typical Hilary brilliance, it makes perfect sense. This episode is full of insight, artistry, and empowerment. Hilary reminds us that communication is a skill we can shape, refine, and own, and that our voices have more power than we often give them credit for. Hilary, oh my God, we're finally here. I remember meeting you I believe we were staying at a Hilton, and we were having breakfast in their little fancy, that one floor that you get to go to when you have special points at Hilton. And you were in there, and I'm like, I'm going to get to talk to Hilary Blair in the Hilton here. This is unbelievable. And now you're here on the podcast as my guest. I am more than thrilled and so happy that you are here today. Tell us all about you, Hilary.
All about. That's hilarious.
All about you.
How do you know I wasn't in there going, oh my gosh, I get to have breakfast and now be on a podcast with Kassy. So
Stop.
Yes,
Maybe.
Totally. Yeah. Yes.
Fangirls.
Yes. There we go. Yes. Fangirls who love learning, development, training, facilitating, all of that, and bringing our arts to that. Yes.
Well, tell us about you. What do you do? And then let's hear about your form of art.
What I do, I degunk people. That's what I say I do. So I am all about my training and teaching and coaching, facilitating, which are all different things, all part of the package of working with people to get their voices heard, literally and figuratively. And I have found that really my main thing is degunking people, so helping get rid of the stuff that's gotten attached to them through life that has someone gave them some feedback and they started editing themselves. They've heard things. They think how they're supposed to show up. And we get all these things stuck on us and we stop being our brilliant, amazing selves. And I'm hopefully a reflection and a voice to come in and say, hey, how about we degunk you?
Oh my goodness. I want to hire you right away. Oh, there's so much gunk. As soon as you said that, it just resonated immediately. And I think even sort of the pre-show talk, I have gunk, which maybe is partly what even inspired. So I'm thankful for this gunk. It inspired this podcast.
Yes.
You know, me talking about how my theater and performance background wasn't necessarily valued when I got my first trainery jobs, actory. I like to say that. It wasn't exactly like, it wasn't that it was devalued, but it was that it was like, we don't want to have to do that.
Yes.
Can you save that for the weekend? And so that's what I mean by it being gunk. And so I learned to push it down a little bit and wear that story, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we do have the things that come in and help shape our journey, right? How many no's have come in and that's why we're doing what we're doing. I was a totally shy and athletic kid. And one of the things that happened to me is due to some eye things, whatever, I can still see because of modern science. It's great. But I had sports taken away from me as a young kid. Your story made me think of this. And so I really was pushed way more into the theater. I did the theater in the summer, but because I couldn't do sports at school, I started doing theater, community theater and theater during the winter. So that became my whole world.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if for our listeners, Hillary has an acting background, a very thorough acting background, like actually an MFA in acting. We're going to talk about this more, but oh, that's so interesting. I couldn't do sports either, but it was only because of me. Like the whole picked last, hit first.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like I came up in the era of kickball, and so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a little
yeah.
story that I carry around with me,
Yeah,
and trauma
kickball's
from
rough.
that
Dodgeball. I
is
grew up with
rough.
dodgeball too, right?
Yeah, dodgeball and kickball,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Picked
I'd
last,
get
hit
out a lot.
first.
I'd get out a
Right.
lot and just sit there and work on my group whistle, which then I use in my giant group sessions. As long as
Yeah.
people don't feel like you're whistling them now because they're like dogs, and well, I think it'd be great if people were like dogs, but there are a lot of opinions about how you lead a group. So
It's so funny. I love that.
walked right into a like quagmire. I just walked right into it, created my own. There you are.
I love that so much. Okay, so when did you find acting? And so it sounds like when was sports taken away? Like how old were you? And then
So right at that middle school into high school. Prior to that, I had done children's theater. I had been doing theater because I happened to be connected to an amazing woman back in Massachusetts where I grew up, and she had a children's theater that was amazing. Her name was Mary Payne, and she had this amazing children's theater, and that's where I found my solace and myself. And in my quiet self, it was really helpful for me to find that home. And I found it interesting to dive into playing other people. So that was fun for me, right? So I played characters that were a little braver than me, and some of them were also going on a journey like me. And the thing though with theater is that I have never been the person who really loved being on the stage. This is going to be a weird thing as a professional actor, as a drama teacher, all of that. I was more drawn to what being in theater does for the people who are in the show or part of the whole production. So so I watched people transform by being cast in plays, and through using their voices and their bodies and the character they were playing and the direction from the actor and being part of the camaraderie of a cast, I watched them transform. And
well, this is really going straight to my heart right now because you've just helped me realize something. I think I'm a little like that as well. Just being in that community and what happens with that group of people that come
yes,
together, the group transforms too, and then you create a transformational experience for an audience, and it ends up
totally.
transforming you on the inside. I
Yeah.
think it's also partly why I became a person who trained trainers because I approach training as a performance
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
in certain, not in all elements, but many parts of it. And so I just love sharing that performance with other trainers so they can feel, I think, what I've felt when I've been part of plays and theater
Yeah.
groups in my
Yes.
past.
Right? And what we
I
learn about
love that.
ourselves and yes.
I
And
love that so much.
yeah. So that was yes. So that and I think that that journey for me has been formed by that early just really observing people change and shift because of what was happening. And then I pursued acting because I had a lovely theater teacher when I was young. She would always say I could have made it if. And I was like, I don't want to be the drama teacher who's saying I could have made it if. I want to be the drama teacher that I'm there because I really want to be with you. So I pursued acting until I realized I would rather be helping people show up on the platform, on the stage, in the play, than me be there myself. So I made that exploration and journey and pursued it, got my master's degree in it. And then I was like, actually, I'm more excited when I'm helping others show
Yeah,
up.
you're a director
Yeah, and a teacher, right?
and a
Yeah.
teacher.
I'm like
Yeah.
I proudly call myself a teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Where'd you study acting?
So I studied at the National Theater Conservatory in Denver, Colorado.
And
Yeah.
you still live in the Denver
I
area, don't
do.
you?
I came from New
Yeah.
York, came to Denver, and I thought I would go right back to New York, and I have stayed here. I am a mountain girl. I love the mountains. I grew up on
Yeah.
the ocean. I love the mountains. I love being able to go hiking and mountain biking and, all of
I
it.
love it too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The crisp air is everything in the mountains.
Yes. And the colors right now are magic. Yes, it's beautiful.
So magical. Yeah, it's the fall
Absolutely.
time. So your company name is not I Remove Gunk. You have what do you do in your company though?
My company's name is Articulate, Real and Clear. And
Yes.
real communication is an art. So yeah, so that's what.
Yeah.
So Articulate was one of those names that came to us through the journey of different people crossing our path and leading us to that. And it was a gift from an interaction with a woman who was doing some work with us at the time. And yeah, so I feel like I love when gifts come. And I love that we capitalize, or we have a different font for the art side of it. So yeah, so we have
I
that
love
art
font.
side.
I could have a whole episode on font.
You could. It
Oh my
is an
gosh,
art.
I love font. I love it.
Totally, right? And when is
I
it
love
a font and when is it, and I'm going to mess up by even talking about it, but sometimes it's a font and sometimes it's not a font, but it's an art, expression. So the ART in our name is not actually a font. It's been created, that ART. I got correct.
It's the art. It's the art. I got you.
The art of the art.
I also love the play on the word itself, because voice and articulation is so foundational to acting and performance in theater.
And are we articulate, or are we the verb or the noun or whatever it is, right? So
there's so many
all of
there.
It. We're all of that. Yes.
And so what kind of work do you do? Tell us about what you do at the organization and the kind of clients you work with and the kind of programs that you're leading people through to remove the gunk.
I love that. So there are 3 main buckets now that it's clearer for me in my journey. Of course, came in specifically, brought in, moving over from the theater world into the business world to work with people on their pitches. So we have a whole focus on pitches, presentations, and public speaking, right? So I'm also a theater person and a voiceover actor, so I like alliteration. But that pitch, presentation, public speaking is really where I started, where I was invited, where a businesswoman saw the work that I was doing, was like, that we need that in the business world. I was like, cool. So learning with pitches how to be succinct with the story, with the messaging, and how to help non-theater people show up in their full body and be connected. That was super fun. And then that led to a lot of work specifically there and using theater activities to help people get in, and then into executive presence. So executive presence, we were hired or actually invited first. And I was like, what is executive presence? No, I didn't. Etch a sketch. What I did was I said, sure, I can do that. Then I looked it up. And I'm like, what is that?
The motto of the entrepreneur.
Totally, right?
Yes. And go look it up.
Oh, executive presence is presence. It's being in relationship. It's that idea of stage presence and personal presence and leadership and business presence. And the corporate world has really put into that package of executive presence, which through time, through the last decade, it had shifted some, right? It used to be really about the executive suite, and there was a look and a sound and all that people were going for. They've come to realize really that executive presence is far more about how am I staying in relationship, how am I using those ingredients, the voice, the nonverbal, the message, my head, heart, and instinct, how am I using those to clearly connect with you? Because as human beings, we're multifaceted, so I can be authentic in many different ways. And so what is the best use of that communication collection of tools to connect with you in this specific moment? So we work with teams on executive presence. And then those are all the tools. And then I will go on and on about my fruitful friction, which I'm obsessed about. So yeah.
This is the latest iteration of the work that you're doing, isn't it?
Yes.
I can't wait to hear. I want to hear more about it because I do not yet have the details myself. So I want to know more.
So in my journey, nothing has really shifted. All we're still doing is still degunking, still helping people find their voice and express their voice. And how do we communicate more clearly, more effectively, more efficiently, all of that. And what happened, I was working with a client a couple years ago, and I was using improv activities and games for these 2 teams. I had a project management team and a sales team, and they were having trouble connecting clearly. So I was doing a series of activities with them for them to understand each other, to figure out who they were and connect. At the end of it, one of the guys turned to me with full attitude, and he said to me, I thought you were going to have us get along. And instead, you got us comfortable with friction.
That's really interesting.
Right? And I said, oh my gosh, you just told me what I've been doing. I've never thought about that. In all the work, executive presence, we were still working with teams on that. In all the work that I was doing, that's exactly what it was, is getting people comfortable with friction. And for me also, separating friction from conflict. They're very different ideas. And one of the people on the team had really been doing the classic thing, super smart, brought in because he was different, and he was silencing himself, squishing himself, because he was interpreting some of the reactions as that he wasn't being received well. Wasn't the case at all. He was truly treasured by them, wanted by them. They didn't always know how to respond. So at one moment, we're working through things. And when you squish yourself like that, when you're high functioning, got great ideas, what happens is that you often get like a sharp razor edge, a laser or a razor edge. And so you have these people who are kind of zinging people because they're not allowing themselves to fully show up. So I
Right.
was
They're on edge.
recognizing
They're literally on
they
edge.
are
And
literally on edge,
it's not an edge that's natural. So they're going to
slice
bump a
and dice
lot
people
and have a problem and almost slip off. And then it comes
and cut
off.
each other and maybe cut people,
Yes.
right?
That's interesting.
So I
Yeah.
paused him and I said at one point, I said, hey, I just want to check in with everyone. Do you appreciate, and with his name, and I said, do you appreciate what he's bringing? And they were like, yes. And one person said, it's essential. We have to have it. And he looked so startled. And he was about to leave. So we invite people in with their differences. And then we don't invite their voices in, or we don't know, we don't have the tools to manage their voices to show up with fruitful friction, to show up. What does it mean if friction creates pearls instead of dust? We need all the different views and ideas and opinions. And if we need them, then we need to learn how to stay in conversation with them. So we tend to default, I'm going to say more and more, to polite and to smoothing things over. When we're polite, my little, you know, prompting is like polite is the death of progress. So if we have polite, don't get rid of polite. We need more kind and honoring, which is to stay in the relationship and the conversation. What's that friction that we get traction, right? We have a grip, we get a grip and we move forward. If we're smoothing things over, being polite, we slide off the road. We don't move forward. We default to that key voice in the room.
Right. Why do you think we are so concerned? Why are we so polite today? Why do we smooth things over?
I think because we've over-indexed on what conflict is. And I think we've conflated and confused friction with conflict. And I think we're so conflict adverse and we have all these negative feelings about conflict. Now, the thing is, you and I, Kassy, have amazing colleagues who've created phenomenal programs to deal with conflict. So I don't have a problem with conflict. We have conflict resolution. We have crucial conversations. We have courageous conversations. We have all kinds of really good programs. And I'm going to put them with my hand like over here, because my feeling is they're over here. And that is, I will say that friction is inevitable. Conflict isn't. It will happen though, right? So we want to have good tools and programs for dealing with when we actually have conflict. The other thing about conflict is that it tends to be issue specific or scenario specific. So if we want to be thinking about the fact that there is a land of really great opportunity to stay in conversation before we get there. If we have narrowed that land of possibility, that land of opportunity becomes a very narrow segment. And on one side of that is attack, and on the other side is avoid, is what we talk about. That's the choice. The instinct is fight or flight. So if we hear something and we either go fight or flight, right? Then we're going to miss the possibility of what happens in the middle. What happens in that messy middle? What's that land of opportunity? If we can expand between avoid and attack, between fight and flight, and get the tools and really learn the techniques and the skills to stay in conversation, then we have an opportunity to come up with brilliant ideas together. It's not comfortable. It can be rocking or awkward, all kinds of things we talk about. I am completely fired up because I think that we're missing opportunity. We give a nod to different ideas, and then we don't equip a team or leaders to really understand how to own their awkward, rock their awkward, stay in conversation, recognize when they've bumped themselves behind a wall again, and how to come back. And then instead, we default to conflict. And I think that we're
It's
just
what we know, maybe. I have a three-part question.
I love it.
I know. Okay. The first one is, could you give us a simple definition that the difference between conflict and friction?
Yes.
The second one is an example of how you would facilitate a moment of friction to occur.
Great.
And then the third one, how much of that example is influenced by your background in theater or from anything that we may have done on the stage?
Love it.
Okay.
The difference between friction and conflict, I open that up always to the groups that I work with because I want to find out. People have very specific reactions to it, right? So one is that conflict is an end and friction is a possibility. So when you have friction, it has movement and flow and can go somewhere. The energy is still flowing through. When you get to conflict, it has an end stop and it is going to explode, or we have to get rid of it, right? We're going to move it. So that's one way. The other is, and there's so many, I'm like, so many are zipping through my head. The other idea is that friction is a flowing movement, and friction still has we can move somewhere. It still has the possibility of pivoting and
It
trying
has
new things
space.
on. It has space around it.
When you mentioned the
Yeah.
pearl,
Yeah.
it really came to light for me because that's something that is being created and then it is beautiful.
Right? And
And
that you
it's a
can also,
process.
right, it's a process. And you can also squish it, right, and not have it happen. And friction also creates traction. Like we need friction, whether it's ballroom shoes that have just a little bit of slide, but we still have enough friction to move there, or if it's, I'm in Colorado, if it's chains on the tires, right, to get up and over. And
You
we'll
want to
even
slide, you don't want to slip when you're dancing,
totally,
right? You
right?
know, the
Yeah,
slide looks good. The slip,
yes,
you might be injured.
totally. And so that sense of when we understand that smoothing over is a misunderstanding of that friction creates a grip that moves us forward, right? And I think that because we can have conflict that blows up, we can have conflict that goes into argument and yelling and that idea. I think we can get scared of conflict. Poorly handled conflict can be scary and bad things can happen. And emotional moments that are emotion's not a problem, right? And being emotional is not a problem if we're able to regulate it. And when we have a power dynamic, we have to be careful of that, right? So how am I handling that? So if the power dynamic is out of balance and misused, we can go into conflict that is dangerous.
Right,
So,
right. Well, I mean, in the world we live in today, too, with all the social media influence, conflict is a dangerous and very real thing for people
right?
and their lives and the future of their lives. So there's that always hanging over us, I think.
Totally.
And it plays out in the workplace, even if we're not playing that
Yeah.
out on social media, it still affects how we believe about it and
Yes.
how we might approach it in any given moment, right?
Yes. And so then the opportunity becomes, how do we separate out that word friction? How can we, and we have a different scale, we all have a different reaction to it. When does friction, when is it still just a great conversation? It has good energy flowing and we're okay with what's going on. And when does it feel like, wait a minute, on the scale for me, that friction has turned into conflict. So we are in different places on that scale. And it has to do with our background, our history with it, the specific relationship, what's supposed to come from it. So there's so many factors.
The stakes.
Yes. And so part of it also is, Kassy, that I found in general, I'm going to take a little detour from I got your three here though, is that
It's good.
communication is a soft skill. And I have no problem claiming that word, loving that word, and challenging people when they want to remove the word soft. Soft is a beautiful thing. And by saying that soft skills are hard, we're like, does that mean that soft isn't good? So for me, soft has a flexibility and a movement and a flow. It's harder to define. That sense of allowing there to be that really grounded expansiveness in soft. Hard
That's
is
a
great.
beautiful reframe of that because I've been leaning into people skills just because I get slightly frustrated about soft versus hard because the people skills are hard for people to do. And so
Yeah.
soft sometimes implies easy, but to reframe the word soft into
Pliable and
pliable,
movable.
malleable, like
Yeah.
squishy.
Yeah.
There's a good one.
And because it's squishy, so this is a long way around to say, because it's squishy, soft skills are a little bit annoying because they are hard to nail down and harder to measure. You can still measure them, all of that. Harder than some of the hard skills to do that. Because that is true, and because there's that difficulty, we want to codify them. We want to put them into models. We want to figure out exactly how they're going to show up. The problem is that they show up highly individualized, each of us. And depending on all of those other factors, the relationship, what happened. If I'm having a meeting with you, Kassy, it depends whether the meeting is in the morning or the afternoon. It depends what meeting came before. It matters whether it is a sunny day or a rainy day. All of those factors impact communication. So that squishiness of communication can make it so that people want to avoid it and they want to come into something that is more definable. And I want us to understand that squishiness, that softness, that mushiness, right? That sense has its own importance in our world, so that I am therefore now learning how to maneuver and figuring out that I can show up many different ways depending on the conversation and still be authentic. I can be inauthentic. I'm not saying I can't be inauthentic. I just want to remind
Yeah,
them
of
that
course.
I can show up many different ways, and people like I want to be my authentic self, and I'm like, which one? Which version? Which
Yeah.
part of you? So because of that sense of squishiness, it can sometimes be easier, safer to default to conflict because it has very defined tools and boundaries on it. So it's an odd understanding that conflict feels sometimes safer, easier. Okay, if I defined it as that, now I know how to behave.
I know how to do it. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what it means,
And when
even
I'm
if it's
in the
painful. Yeah.
Yes, when I'm in the messy middle, when I'm in that between avoid and attack, that place where we can have fruitful friction, where we can stay in conversation, it's constantly shifting and changing. And because you and I show up in different places on that continuum of when is it still safer, when am I okay with the debate and all of that, and when you were like, whoa, that's enough, because of that, we will default often to calling something conflict because then we've defined it in an easier fashion.
I see.
I invite us into the sandbox of messiness.
I love it. So what
Not
would it
lack
look
of
like?
safety. Not lack of safety. Okay. So I want to make
Of
sure
course.
that we're
Yeah.
not asking that. And
And so what happens? Like to walk us through
yeah, friction.
not the whole thing, but just a moment,
Yeah.
of like what might be an example of how you've got a group of people, they've understood this, they're sort of quietly on board. They're hesitant, but they're okay. They're leaning in. So where are you going to take them to get to
The fruitful.
realizing it and maybe having some friction? I'm assuming some friction will happen as you lead them through it. So how
We're
do you do
human
that?
beings, right? So let's
Yeah.
go to the classic place where we work with, I think, with business folks, right? Is where the leader has suggested that they would like all voices in the room and they really want to hear everybody's opinion. And then we know what often happens is people are like, I know that. I've already learned that my voice doesn't matter. Like people have been shut down, right? That's a classic thing. Not by the intention of the leader, right? Often because they don't have the skills and we have pushed time as the definer of whether we go there or not. I believe that fruitful friction will, in the end, save you time because you will innovate better and everything will be better to have us having all those voices. You hired those people for their voices. Let's hear them. So we have that. So Kassy, you're the leader and I've got the group of people together. There are many things that will happen. We'll define a group culture. We'll make sure we have a place that we understand what works and what won't work here. And one of the first tools we'll talk about is the difference between walls and boundaries. I'll just say that's the first thing. So what happens is I will often think like, what can I share? And I will then have a wall come up. Some of the walls will be connected to avoid or attack for sure. And then my personal walls. The thing is that then we get told that we're supposed to be vulnerable. Right? And I'm like, okay, so then does that mean that all 6 people on your team, I'm now telling them they have to be vulnerable? That's not safe. It's not safe. It's not doable. It doesn't really work. So I talk about the fact that we're trying to have walls down so that I'm in relationship with you and in the messy middle. And I get to have my own personal intentional boundaries up. So boundaries will be things that I don't want to share for whatever reason. They can be politics, they can be religion, they can be feelings I have from other situations. They can be things that what I would say, they don't serve the conversation. They don't serve the group. Now, you as a leader, I will be adamant with you because leaders are being taught to be vulnerable and share everything. And it's not a level playing field. So your sense of sharing and what you're going to bring to it is very different. And to expect that I am going to be able to share the same things that you're going to share is a misunderstanding of the dynamics of power and status. So if we understand that if we allow walls down, I'm in relationship with you, but I still have some boundaries up that I have personally defined and they all change. I'll have boundaries up in this meeting with you as my leader and the 6 people that we're working with, right? And I'll have different boundaries that I'll have with different relationships. As a trainer, as a presenter, right? I have to show up present, right? We're talking about executive presence. I have to have my walls down and connect. But there is plenty of stuff that people do not need to know or have me share about myself. So I am always thinking, what serves the room? And so I'm
It's so
constantly,
interesting. You do
right?
think about like just a little moment of
Yeah.
like if you've ever seen that presenter where you're like, well, that was awkward. You
Like,
know, that's when they forgot about the boundary. They went a little too far. It's very interesting
yeah.
just to
So
put that into perspective.
right? And
Yeah.
recognizing, oh, they overshared,
Yeah.
or my leader who means well, but he is sharing way more information, but he said I was supposed to be vulnerable and he's not understanding that he can still have boundaries in the situation. So
I see.
that first, it's more of a mindset and a construct, right? Than it is, or a concept, than it is an actual tool. So that idea
Yeah.
of here it is. And then
Do you have people think about like when you say wall versus boundary and they just need to think about what are their walls and what are their boundaries? And what are the walls in the room maybe and what are and then the boundaries are more of a personal thing. So that's an actual exercise that you're guiding people through to think through.
yeah,
And those are things that change over time too and change within context,
change
right?
in the moment. All of a sudden I'm in a
Okay.
conversation, I realize, oh, I have something behind my boundary, and I realize I need to bring that forward. Like, oh, I hadn't thought
Mm,
to share that, but now I'm going to, because that will help. So things move back and forth as we
hmm.
figure out what serves the room, what keeps, and I get to choose. It's intentional. I get to choose what makes a space where I feel safer. And we
And
do it
there's
with
some
body language. We do it like, what are you doing? How are you? What are your walls with your voice? What are your walls with your word choice? What are your walls with your um,
yeah.
tone?
I mean, there's a process of learning too what your boundaries are. I don't know that everybody knows exactly. These are my boundaries. I'm super clear.
No. Mm-mm. And by giving the two words, it makes it so, and we have great conversations. So we put people in twos and threes, talk through, like, what do you realize that you have where your boundaries are? And you don't have to overshare anything that you don't want to share, right? Chat through when you realize that now that you have the possibility of putting walls up that are different than boundaries. And if the end goal is walls down, boundaries up, what can you shift in yourself? What now do you see as a possibility to show up in a space? If you come to the messy middle, realizing you don't have to share everything, it's much safer. So it's a
When
cool,
you said the word possibility, I immediately thought of all of the theater that I've been a part of.
yes.
That word possibility. When you do this, what might be possible?
Yes. And I want to go back to your question was how does it connect to theater? I need you to know that the program, all this stuff that I do is because I've been teaching theater, drama teacher, right? The joke, right? I was a drama teacher who put the drama in and now I take it out.
Yeah.
And the concept of table work. So, you know, table work, we show up at a table and we have the designers, we have everybody there. We are assuming everyone's bringing their best ideas. And we're not necessarily going to all agree on everything, right? The idea is Kassy's got some ideas, Hilary got some ideas, we have all the other people have ideas. The director is hearing them all because they know that they've invited to the table people with brilliant input and great ideas. I'm not going to invite you to the table and then shut you all up and go, well, this is what I'm doing. Well, if I do, the show won't be any good, right? The idea of fruitful friction comes from my experience with table work in theater.
It's all the work that you do is influenced by where you come from. You've built an entire business around
Yes.
your experience as an actor and a
Yeah.
person who loves the theater.
Yes.
You've brought it into our world, into the
Yes.
corporate world, because it just makes so much sense. I mean, they never needed to be separated to begin with.
Which is
Maybe.
opening
Yeah.
up a mirror, putting a mirror up from how we started back to you. You don't have to separate them either. And your knowledge that your voice and all those beautiful things, your improv and all those things that you bring to your training are
Right.
why you're a freaking rock star, right? Why you're
I try.
amazing.
That's
You are
it. I mean,
amazing.
it's, thank you. Thank you very much. And that, I think that I am living that way today. And that's the part of the point of talking with people like yourself, because I've never really hidden it. I've just never talked out loud about how I wasn't hiding it.
I love that. That's
Do you
beautiful.
like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's the
love that.
truth. I was like, oh, I should hide it. Okay. I just won't talk about it. I'm still going to do it though. I'm a little hard-headed. So,
Good.
it doesn't make any sense for me to not do it, which is why. If it made logical sense for me to not do it, that might have been a different story, but I
Yeah,
couldn't see any path forward. So
I love
I
it.
just didn't tell you that I was doing it. I
I
just
think
didn't put the word actor on it. I just did it anyway.
totally. I think I've
Yeah.
had to do that more intentionally. I think I have, well, a silly little one when I first started, because I got invited into the business world by a woman who saw me in a play and was like, we need that work with our women who are pitching their businesses. And so she wanted me to do the work. And I was like, I haven't worked with many business people. Call me when you've worked with more. So I started working with business people, and I had to learn just how to adapt things. Like if you were a business person way back then, I would have brought you in and had you lie down on the floor, right? Because
Right. They don't want to lay on the floor. Yeah. Exactly.
but it's funny that what's so delightful is you totally get why, like business people were like, what? I go, oh
What?
yeah, we start on the floor,
We
breathe
start on
into
the
the floor, melt into the floor,
Yeah.
right? And and I learned how to adapt the things that I'm doing in a way that would work. Yes. So to
Right.
your point, I just moved the order, but to your point of like, I might not have even been aware that I was disguising the things. I'm like, but how do I
Yeah.
help them? How do I help them understand what to do? Okay, standing up, I'll have to adapt it.
We'll just
Having them
stand in a circle instead of lying on the floor in the circle. Let's just stand in the circle. And maybe they'll close their eyes if I just have them still be standing.
I do say to people when I'm in workshops, I'm like, I'm a drama teacher. I'm a former drama teacher. So I'm going to have you in a circle soon. So
You know you're going to be in a circle. Just here we go. I think I've always been in a circle every time I've seen you present too. It's true. Facts. I could talk to you all day. I love this. What can you teach us? I'm a facilitator. I'm
yeah,
an instructional designer. I'm an L&D professional. I'm listening to a drama teacher who has a very successful and wonderful business. What's one thing you could teach me today that I could do to improve my work?
it's my soapbox right now. And I'm writing a little bit on it. It's about the difference between when people ask us for a tool and then we need to understand that we teach them a skill with it, and then we are really working on their individual technique. Because what happens is people keep asking for tools. And then we get all these models and formulas and things. And what makes great L&D people, right? All of you fabulous trainers and working with folks, and whichever term works for you, because we all have different feelings about those words, right?
I love that you just brought that up because I too am like, whatever term you use, I am fine with. You're the person who stands in the front and leads us through the things.
Whichever one works.
Or maybe you sit in the middle and you make us lay on the floor and lead us through the whatever. You're the one leading us through the things
Right.
that will help us do the stuff.
Totally.
What's the word you use? Yeah.
So grab that and own it for yourself. And then if I'm saying that the reason the tool skill and technique is because I think people want the efficiency of a new tool, but the brilliance of the professionals and us coming into the room and bringing us in is that we are helping people understand how to use it. And then what's more important even is the next step is we're individualizing it to them. So the example I use is you can give me a new knife. You have to teach me how to use it. What's the skill of using a knife in the kitchen so that I can be more efficient with cutting up my vegetables, right? And if you give me a good knife, a better knife without that, I'll probably just cut myself. So how do I get better skills? And how do I personally, what are me and my weight and my height and the counter and how I'm weird? What's my technique? I may never be a chef. This image comes from watching The Bear, the television show The Bear, right? So I may never be a
Love
chef,
that.
but I am an actor. So I have served a lot of food in my day. And that concept of please know that the reason you're hiring all these fabulous L&D people is because they're going to teach you the skills and then the technique. So give them the time to be with the people. It's not just the tool. The tool is fantastic. We create great tools. It's great. But make sure you give them the time and put the money into it so that then they are training the people on the skills to use the tool. And then even more so that individual energy that they can bring to your people and to people so that they get the technique. It's the individual technique that carries forth into companies and businesses. And I feel like our L&D people are asked to do, here's the tool, teach the tool, you taught them a tool, great. No. They have to teach them.
Be able to bloom. The pearl needs time to be made.
Yes.
And that's the technique, isn't it? Like each person finding the way that they're going to do it and bring their full selves to it in some way.
Yeah.
I always say tech is cool. People are cooler.
Yeah. Yes.
Because they bring themselves to it. They unleash themselves on that. In my virtual training career, it's like, it's not about WebEx or Zoom. It's about what we choose to do with one another when we are there. And yes, we need the tool, But what we choose to do and how we behave and the experience that we create is going to be coming from each of us human beings and our life experiences and the techniques, as you say, that we bring to that moment.
Kassy, it's why you're so good at it. You say, here are all the tools, here's all the tech, and here are the skills to use the tech. And then your workshops are brilliant because you say, now, how do you make that work for you? That's what you do. I just want people
That's
to
what I do.
remember.
It's very interesting too to have like what I'm thinking about right now is I'm learning so much from you about myself because it's been very challenging for me to figure out because people will ask of me what you've just defined as technique. What they want from me and what they want me to teach other people to do is the techniques that they've seen me demonstrate.
Yes.
Which is many times throughout my career, I'll be like, well, I'm 154 years old. And so the thing that you're seeing me do has been built up through my whole life and the sum and total of my life experiences.
Yes. Yes.
You know, even I have an email in my inbox from just yesterday. It says, if you had to take one class to become a keynote speaker like you, Kassy, what would you tell me to take? And I'm like, it's not one class. It's not. It's so many things and so many experiences. And of course, I'm going to want to answer that, and I will find a way to answer that because I do love that question.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty complex answer.
Yes. The tool, and then the skills, and then the technique.
Right.
So they're
asking for the tool.
Yes. In your magic, what they're responding to is your technique.
Yes.
And they want you to hand them the tool.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is an opportunity.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so, you and I both, we lean into that as entrepreneurs. And so I love the definitions that you've brought to it and the understanding that you've helped me have today too about what I'm doing in the world. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're brilliant. You're freaking brilliant.
You are freaking brilliant. Where can we learn more about you? We want to connect with you and check out what you're doing. Where should we go?
Well, LinkedIn is always I just think it's a great platform. I love that. So LinkedIn is always fantastic. So I'm Hilary with one L because why use two when one would work? That's my dad's quote. And then I'm
Kassy with a K, and it's not Kathy, and it has the Y at the end, and that's what it is.
Exactly.
I said it a little bit wrong, but it's a little like that. Kassy with a K and a Y, not a C and an IE. Yeah, we always have a thing, don't we? Yes. And evidently I'm named after my dad's ex-girlfriend. And I met a girl just recently who's also named after her dad's ex-girlfriend, and we're now best friends, she and I, because we think we're the only two people.
I love that. We call those the clicks, right? We click with things like that. Yeah. That's what we like. We love the things that are in common.
That's so funny. Anyway, Hilary with
you
one
can
L.
also do my, yes. And then you can also, our website, Articulate RC for real and clear, articulaterc.com. Yes.
We'll make sure to put all that in the show notes. I can't wait to see what's going to be coming with Fruitful Friction. It's so exciting that you've got this new endeavor, and I know it's just going to make big waves. Thank you for being our guest today, Hilary. That's your spark. Now go light something up. And hey, if this episode lit you up, share it with a friend, a fellow facilitator, or someone who needs a little more connection in their day. Be sure to follow the Spark Konnect so you don't miss what's next. We've got more brilliant voices, bold ideas, and heart-forward conversations coming your way. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep showing up.